Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Wednesday, January 30th, 2019. Today I'm going to go over last night's college basketball, NBA, and NHL games, look ahead to tonight's slate. Roger Goodell just had his annual State of the Union address, so I'm going to go over some things he talked about, such as the blatant no call in the NFC Championship game, Colin Kaepernick, Josh Gordon, etc. Super Bowl props, Anthony Davis, and my best bet. Okay, college basketball. Some interesting results last night. Not a big slate. Tonight's a big slate, though. And a lot of big games tonight as well. And, of course, some very interesting results from yesterday. Northern Illinois defeats Ohio 71-60. Northern Illinois is 12-9. Ohio is 11-9. Number 1 Tennessee defeats South Carolina 92-70. A very impressive win for the Vols. All the Vols do is impress game after game after game. They answer every big test. They had one slip up, which they won too, and that was against Alabama. They were down big early against West Virginia, and then they came back and won that game by a sizable margin. And then they go out and beat a frisky South Carolina team to go to 19-1 as the Gamecocks drop to 10-10. Number 3, Virginia defeats number 23, NC State, 66-65 in overtime. Virginia goes to 19-1, and North Carolina State drops to 16-5. Number 9, North Carolina defeats Georgia Tech, 77-54. Tar Heels keep rolling. Ever since that bad loss against Louisville, they've been playing very good ball. They're 16-4. Georgia Tech is 11-10. Texas defeats number 11, Kansas, 73-63. Boy, how have the Jayhawks fallen apart. They're 16-5. And Texas improves to 12-9. And if they get on a little bit of a run, they can steal an at-large bid because they have a win against Kansas now. But that might not be as valuable because Kansas isn't the same after missing Azubuike for the season. And then they beat North Carolina, who's playing really well right now. So that's another good win from them to hang on to. And Kansas, I think, is in trouble. Number 18, Buffalo defeats Ball State 83-59. The Bulls keep rolling. They're 19-2, and Ball State's 11-10. Number 21, Maryland defeats Northwestern 70-52. The Terps are playing well. They're 17-5. Northwestern's 12-9. Central Michigan defeats Eastern Michigan 86-82. Central Michigan is very good in the MAC. They're 15-6. Eastern Michigan's 9-2. The MAC is a very good conference this year. Buffalo has some competition, although they will probably win the league. Lipscomb defeats Liberty 79-59. Lipscomb with a fantastic win, 17-4. Liberty's 18-5. Toledo defeats Miami of Ohio 66-63. They barely cover. They're 17-4. Miami of Ohio is 11-10. Arkansas defeats Georgia 70-60. Arkansas is 12-8 and Georgia's 10-10, so Arkansas barely covers. Number 24, Wisconsin defeats Nebraska 62-51. Wisconsin's been playing better basketball. They're 15-6. Nebraska is 13-8 as their season is falling apart. Missouri State defeats Valparaiso 55-54 in overtime. Mizzou State's 11-11. Valpo's 12-10. Dayton defeats St. Joe 75-64. Dayton 14-7. St. Joe's 9-12. Alabama defeats number 22 Mississippi State 83-79. So Bama hangs on from despite the Bulldogs making a late push there because this game was a wider margin as the Bulldogs kept it close there at the end. As Alabama goes to 13-7, Mississippi State drops to 15-5. Bama has to be considered as an at-large contender at this point because there are a lot of major conference teams that are underachieving this year, like West Virginia and Florida, and a lot of the teams in the Pac-12 like UCLA and USC. There's a bunch of major teams underachieving. And then there's a lot of mid-majors that are in play for at-larges, but we saw with Monmouth from a few years ago that they proved that you need an absolute darn near perfect resume, and those wins have to be meaningful than those wins Monmouth had, because I remember they beat UCLA in a year where UCLA was down, so those teams that Wofford and teams like that beat that are good have to be in the NCAA tournament, or at least darn close to being a tournament team, if not that. Number 5, Michigan defeats Ohio State 65-49 as Michigan goes to 20-1. Ohio State drops to 13-7. Ohio State's like Nebraska, another team in the Big Ten that's falling apart. Number 7, Kentucky defeats Vanderbilt 87-52, a pretty darn impressive win for John Calipari's team. They are rolling. They're 17-3. Vandy is 9-11. Kentucky's the national title team that nobody is giving credit for. Oh, I know a lot of people are saying Michigan State for that, but I think Michigan State is getting the love that they deserve, but it took a while for people to recognize it. And, of course, Michigan in their own conference deserves some love, and let's give it up for Kentucky. They got their butts kicked by Duke the first night of the season. They really have turned it around since then. A couple close losses here and there. They lost at Alabama, and Alabama's a good team in the SEC, as we're starting to see. And Kentucky dropped another game to Seton Hall, in which they could have won. That game went to overtime. That's another underachiever. And that's another conference I forgot to mention in terms of a lot of underachievers, the Big East. So 3 losses for Kentucky, but you can make a case that this team could very well be 19-1, with the one loss being the ass-kicking from Duke on opening night. Clemson defeats Pittsburgh 82-79, or 69, my bad. Clemson's 12-8, Pitt's 12-9. Boise State defeats Colorado State 70-68. Boise 10-11, Colorado State 8-13, and number 8 Nevada defeats UNLV 87-70. Nevada goes to 20-1. UNLV drops to 11-9. I mentioned before, tonight's slate is a lot bigger. I'll pick the major conference games and games that are on national TV and games between ranked teams. 6:30 on Fox Sports 1, you have number 10 Marquette at Butler. Butler's favored by 2.5, and I think Butler's due for a big win. I think they'll get it here. On Fox Sports 1, SEC Network, you have at 6:30 Ole Miss at Florida. Florida's a 5-point favorite. Ole Miss has fallen apart after a nice run there that looked like a surefire NCAA tournament team. But I'm going to take the Gators to win the game, but I think Ole Miss hangs around, so I'm going to say Ole Miss covers, but the Gators win. 7 o'clock on ESPN2, you have number 12 Virginia Tech and Miami. Virginia Tech's the 8.5-point favorite. I think they win and cover. I just don't like what I've seen from Miami this year. 7 o'clock on ESPNU, you have West Virginia against number 20 Iowa State. Iowa State's favored by 12.5. I think they win, but the Mountaineers keep it relatively close. But they barely cover. Because I really don't like how Iowa State has looked of late either. Richmond at St. Louis. St. Louis is favored by 10. I think they win and cover. Rhode Island, Duquesne. Rhode Island's favored by 2. Guess what? Wrong team's favored. Duquesne's going to win outright. Canisius at Niagara. Maine at UMass Lowell. Albany at New Hampshire. Binghamton at Hartford. Bradley at Evansville. Navy at Bucknell. High Point Gardner-Webb. UMass LaSalle. UMass is favored by 2. Guess what? I think LaSalle wins outright. They're due for a home win. Campbell at Radford. Radford unbeaten in the Big South, by the way. Army at Colgate. Holy Cross at Boston University. American at Loyola, Maryland. Indiana at Rutgers, 7 o'clock in the Big Ten Network. Indiana's favored by 1.5. The RAC has played some spoiler a lot throughout the Big Ten season. I think that continues here as Indiana is yet another Big Ten team that's falling apart. So give me Rutgers pulling off the home upset outright. South Carolina upstate at UNC Asheville. Northern Iowa at Loyola Chicago. North Florida at Kennesaw State. Providence at Seton Hall. Seton Hall's favored by 4.5. Seton Hall needs this win badly. Do I think they'll get it? Yes. I'm not so sure about the cover, so let's say Seton Hall wins, but Providence covers. I'm going to say Seton Hall wins by 2. Florida Gulf Coast at NJIT. Stony Brook at UMBC. Stetson at Jacksonville. Hampton at Longwood. Fordham at George Washington. South Dakota at Purdue-Fort Wayne. Presbyterian at Charleston Southern at 7:30. UAB at Middle Tennessee. Central Arkansas at Stephen F. Austin. 8 o'clock CBS Sports Network. Number 14 Villanova at DePaul. Villanova, 6-point favorite. They're undefeated in the Big East. I think that keeps on going as DePaul is trending in the wrong direction after a surprising start. So give me Villanova to win and cover. ACC Network, number 15, Louisville at Wake Forest. Louisville has been one of the fast risers of late. They've been playing great basketball. I want to pick Wake Forest outright to upset Louisville, but I don't know if I have the balls to do it. I think they'll keep it close, but I think Louisville barely wins. So Wake Forest will be covering the 10. Louisville will win the game. Houston Baptist at Incarnate Word. Syracuse at Boston College. Syracuse is a 3-point favorite. That says trap game written all over it. Give me... am I dare going to say Boston College? Guess what, I will. Boston College upsets Syracuse. Don't feel super about it, though. Illinois State at Drake. Lamar at Nichols. Memphis at Tulsa at 8 o'clock. Memphis is a 2-point favorite at Tulsa. I think the wrong team's favored here, so give me Tulsa outright. Sam Houston State at Southeast Louisiana. Northwestern State at New Orleans. A&M Corpus Christi at Abilene Christian. 8:30 on Fox Sports 1. St. John's at Creighton. Creighton's a 4-point favorite. I think they win and cover. St. John's is a team that's trending in the wrong direction. They're not a sure thing to make the tournament anymore. Lehigh at Lafayette. 8:30 on the SEC Network. Missouri at Auburn. Auburn's favored by 14.5. That's too big. I think Missouri covers, but Auburn obviously wins. 9 o'clock on ESPN2. Now you have number 19 LSU at Texas A&M. LSU is a 5-point favorite. I think they'll win and cover. I like how this Tigers team is playing right now. 16-3 on the year after being pegged as a disappointment in non-conference play. I like this team's turnaround. Indiana State at Southern Illinois. Cal Baptist at Utah Valley. 9 o'clock Big Ten Network. Illinois at Minnesota. Minnesota's favored by 6.5. I like this Minnesota team. And Illinois, I think, is due for a letdown after that upset at MSG, so give me Minnesota to win and cover. ESPNU, SMU at Wichita State. Wichita's a 2-point favorite. Wrong team's favored. I think SMU's going to win. Fresno at Wyoming. Fresno's favored by 12.5. I think they win and cover. San Jose State at Utah State. Utah State's favored by 25.5. I think they win and they cover. 10 o'clock Air Force at San Diego State. San Diego State's favored by 10.5. I think they win and cover. 10 o'clock on the Pac-12 Network. UCLA at Washington State. UCLA is a 4.5-point favorite. They'll win and cover. Cal State Northridge and Cal State Fullerton at 11 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. USC and Washington. Washington is a 7-point favorite. I think they win, but the Trojans keep it close and cover. NBA. A good slate last night. 7 games. The Cavaliers upset the Wizards 116-113. Cleveland goes to 11-41. Washington drops to 21-29. Jordan Clarkson off the bench, 28 points and 5 boards. Also off the bench, Larry Nance had 13 with 11 boards. Matthew Dellavedova had 10 off the bench in terms of starters. Con Sexton and Ante Zizic each had 12, and C.D. Osman had 26. Bradley Beal at 31. Trevor Ariza at 13. Off the bench, Otto Porter had 11. Gary Payton had 11. And Jordan McRae had 15. The Bucks defeat the Pistons 115-105. Milwaukee goes to 36-13. Detroit drops to 21-28. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 21 points, 11 assists, and 8 boards. Chris Middleton had 15, 6 and 6. Brook Lopez had 14. Eric Bledsoe had 20 with 7 assists and 5 boards. Tony Snell had 11. And off the bench, Pat Connaughton had 16. For Detroit, Andre Drummond had 20 with 13 boards. Blake Griffin, 18 points, 9 assists, 7 boards. Reggie Jackson had 25. And off the bench, Luke Kennard had 19. The Thunder defeat the Magic 126-117. Good win for OKC to go to 32-18. Orlando drops to 20-31. Paul George had 37 points and 6 boards. Russell Westbrook had 23 points, 14 assists, and 14 boards. Jeremy Grant had 18. Nerlens Noel had 12. And off the bench, Dennis Schroeder had 21. Steven Adams did not play due to a right ankle injury, and Terrence Ferguson did not play due to back spasms. Meanwhile, for Orlando, Nikola Vucevic had 27 points and 11 boards. Evan Fournier had 17. Aaron Gordon had 16. Jonathan Isaac and DJ Augustine each had 11. And off the bench, Terrence Ross had 16. The Nets defeat the Bulls 122-117. Brooklyn goes to 28-24. Chicago drops to 11-40. D'Angelo Russell, 30 points and 7 assists. Joe Harris had 17. Off the bench, Rondé Hollis Jefferson had 18. DeMar Carroll had 11. And Shabazz Napier had 24. One takeaway about Russell, I do think he is this year's version of Victor Oladipo, which I mean by sort of not a failed lottery pick per se, but a lottery pick that hadn't lived up to expectations. After a new change of scenery, he turns into a great player. This is what we're seeing right now with Russell. After Zach LaVine of the Bulls showed signs of it earlier in the year, he had 26. Chris Dunn had 15. Lauri Markkanen had 18. And off the bench, Bobby Portis had 12. And Jabari Parker had 22. And back to Russell for a second. And the other reason why I think he's this year's version of Oladipo is because he's leading his team to the playoffs. And that's what Oladipo did last year as well. The Pelicans defeat the Rockets 121-116, a surprising win for New Orleans. They're 23-28, Houston's 29-21. Talk about failed lottery picks. Here's one. Jahlil Okafor, 27 points and 12 boards. That is phenomenal. What happened to him? He's suddenly looking like a player. Drew Holiday had 19 with 8 assists and 6 boards. Fred Jackson had 10. Darius Miller had 14. And off the bench, Tim Frazier had 10 and Ian Clark had 15. Meanwhile, for Houston, James Harden's run of 30-plus points continues. 37 points and 11 boards. Eric Gordon had 17. Chris Paul had 10 with 9 assists. Kenneth Faried had 19 with 11 boards. Bench didn't do anything. The Spurs defeat the Suns 126-124, courtesy of a buzzer beater by Rudy Gay. The Spurs go to 30-22. Phoenix goes down to 11-42. LaMarcus Aldridge, 29 points and 14 boards. Derek White had 15. Bryn Forbes had 12. Davis Bertans had 18. And Gay had 16 with 5 assists and 5 boards. Meanwhile, off the bench, Patty Mills had 12. And Marco Bellinelli had 17. And Popovich, after the game, called his team pathetic, and he said that the Suns got robbed. Because Popovich is a perfectionist, and he doesn't like when his team plays down to their opponents, which the Spurs did last night. But they're fortunate they got away with a much-needed win. Devin Booker had 38 with 7 assists. Josh Jackson. That's the second time I did this on my podcast, confused the two Jacksons. Josh Jackson had 14.6 boards and 5 assists. Mikal Bridges had 17. Rashawn Holmes had 10. And off the bench, Jamal Crawford turning back the clock with 22. And Kelly Oubre Jr. had 14. And DeAndre Ayton did not play. The 76ers defeat the Lakers 121-105. Jimmy Butler back. Sixers go to 33-18. Lakers drop to 26-25. Joel Embiid, 28 points, 11 boards, 6 assists. Ben Simmons had 19 with 6 assists and 8 boards. Jimmy Butler, 20 points, 6 assists and 5 boards. J.J. Redick had 13. Off the bench, Mike Muscala had 17. Meanwhile, for the Lakers, Brandon Ingram, a career-high 36 points to go with 5 boards and 5 assists. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope had 12. Off the bench, JaVale McGee had 17. Today's slate, you have 8 games. At 7:30, you have the Mavericks at the Knicks, the Hornets at the Celtics, the Bulls at the Heat. 8 o'clock ESPN, the Pacers at the Wizards. Pacers are favored by 1. Wrong team's favored. Victor Oladipo is out. Wizards take advantage, even though they're on the second of a back-to-back. I just don't trust the Pacers without Oladipo on the road and against a team that has a better player than whomever the Pacers' best player is currently healthy. And Bradley Beal will be the best player on the court tonight, and he'll lead the Wizards to a win. And there'll be Mike Breen, Jeff Van Gundy, and Lisa Salters on the call on ESPN. Grizzlies, Timberwolves, Nuggets, Pelicans, 10 o'clock. Hawks, Kings, and 10:30. The Jazz at the Trailblazers. Dave Pasch and Doris Burke will be on the call. That one, Portland's a 1.5-point favorite. I think they win and cover, although this game will be close. I think Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum will hit big free throws late to put the game away. I expect this game to be great. It's better than the first game. But I do like the Blazers to win at home in a close one. NHL. Only 3 games last night. The Flyers defeat the Rangers 1-0 on the NBC Sports Network. A good win for Philly. That's 5 straight for them. 21-23-6 on the year. Rangers dropped to 21-21-7. Number 1 star of the game. 38 saves on 38 shots. Anthony Stolarz. Number 2 star of the game with the lone goal of the game. Oscar Lindblom. And the number 3 star of the game with 18 saves on 19 shots. The backup goalie of the Rangers, Alexander Georgiev. The Jets defeat the Bruins 4-3 in a shootout. Good win for Winnipeg on the road to go to 32-16-2. Boston drops to 27-17-6. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals, Kyle Connor. Number 2 star of the game with 2 goals, Patrick Reese Bergeron. Number 3 star of the game with 3 assists, Brad Marchand. The Sabres defeat the Blue Jackets 5-4. Good win for Buffalo, although they had to hang on there at the end. They're 25-18-6. Columbus is 28-18-3. Number 1 star of the game with the goal and assist, Connor Sheary. Number 2 star of the game with the goal and an assist, Evan Rodriguez. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal and assist, Cam Atkinson. 2 games on tonight at 8 o'clock on NBCSN. The Lightning at the Penguins. I thought this game was in Tampa Bay. It's actually in Pittsburgh. But still, the better team is the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think they're going to win this game. And at 8:30, the Sabres at the Stars. Sabres on the second of a back-to-back in that one. Roger Goodell had his annual State of the Union today. I want to go over some things that he spoke about, including the famous no call in the NFC Championship game, among other things. And we'll start with the famous no call, because that's been the biggest story in the NFL over the past few days, if not the last week and a half. On the Saints missed call, he says, "We understand the frustration they feel whenever the officiating is a part of a decision. It's not a good thing, but we also know our officials are human. We will look again at instant replay. Should replay be expanded?" So, Goodell also says that he thought the officials screwed up too. And then I saw somebody point out on ESPN that earlier in the season, an official got fired for missing an easy call in the Chargers-Browns game in Cleveland. So I would expect that official that didn't make that call to get fired. Somebody asks about Josh Gordon. He says, "Right now the focus is what we can do to help Josh to get to that place." So he obviously knows Josh Gordon. He has spoken to Josh Gordon in the past, and it sounds like they're going to do what's right for him. On the Oakland Raiders' future home for 2019, it's unfortunate that litigation was filed prior to their final season in Oakland. I'm hopeful they'll get a resolution soon. And somebody suggests San Diego. The hope of Mark Davis is to continue to be in the Bay Area for their fans. And then another thing, the Kareem Hunt situation. He says the investigation should conclude soon and that he'll go back on the exempt list whenever he signs. and he awaits likely suspension. And the same for Reuben Foster, except he just said because his charge was dropped doesn't mean he won't be suspended. And then there's some other random questions in there. One asking about Colin Kaepernick and why teams haven't signed him. And Roger Goodell, I'm paraphrasing here, said that that's up to the front offices and coaches and owners of teams, not me. Let's have some fun. Let's go over some Super Bowl props. I'm going to look up on FanDuel because FanDuel offers a variety of them more so than DraftKings. And it's a lot of fun doing these. So, some extra props. Passing. Quarterbacks to pass for the most yards. Tom Brady at minus 130. Jared Goff for plus 100. The easy play is Brady. Tom Brady to throw first. Touchdown minus 350. Interception plus 250. I think plus 250 is low for an interception. Jared Goff to throw first. Touchdown minus 260. Interception plus 200. Yards of Tom Brady's first pass. Over under 10.5. Overs minus 135 and the unders plus 10.05. The under there is juicy. Getting the plus. Yards of Jared Goff's first touchdown pass. Over 13.5 is plus 110 and under 13.5 is minus 140. Quarterback to be sacked first. Tom Brady minus 120. Jared Goff minus 105. Quarterback to throw the first interception. Tom Brady plus 100. Jared Goff minus 135. Quarterback to throw a touchdown pass first. Tom Brady minus 105. Jared Goff minus 120. That's interesting. Will Tom Brady throw a first quarter touchdown? Yes, plus 155. No, minus 200. Will Tom Brady throw a second quarter touchdown? Yes, minus 120. No, minus 105. Will Tom Brady throw a third quarter touchdown? Yes, plus 350. No, minus 190. Will Tom Brady throw a fourth quarter touchdown? Yes, minus 105. No, minus 120. Will Jared Goff throw a first quarter touchdown? Yes, plus 135. No, minus 170. Will Jared Goff throw a second quarter touchdown? Yes, minus 115. No, minus 115. Will Jared Goff throw a third quarter touchdown? Yes, plus 135. No, minus 170. Will Jared Goff throw a fourth quarter touchdown? Yes, minus 105. No, minus 120. Any quarterback to pass for 400 plus yards? Yes, plus 450. No, minus 700. One I wagered on, actually, was the yes plus 450 in any quarterback to pass for 400 plus yards. Because I could see Brady and Goff. I could see definitely both of them going over 400, especially Brady. Because Brady always has good passing numbers in the Super Bowl, it seems like, especially over the last couple seasons. Rushing. Total rushing yards combined over, under 20 or 213.5. The overs minus 160. The under is plus 125. Total Rams rushing yards 102.5. Over minus 140. Under is plus 110. Total New England rushing yards. The over under is 111.5. The overs minus 160. The under is plus 125. Will the Rams rush for a touchdown? Yes, minus 370. No, plus 260. Will the Pats rush for a touchdown? Yes, minus 370. No, plus 260. First running back to reach 50 plus rushing yards. Sonny Michel minus 190. Todd Gurley plus 150. First running back to reach 20 plus rushing yards. Rex Burkhead plus 300. CJ Anderson minus 410. First running back to reach 10 plus rushing yards. Rex Burkhead minus 150. James White plus 110. Any player to rush for 100 plus yards? Yes, plus 110. No, minus 140. First running back to reach 40 plus receiving yards. James White minus 370. Todd Gurley plus 250. Number of Rams to record a rush attempt. 4.5 Over is minus 105. Under is minus 120. Number of Pats to record a rushing attempt. Same number, 4.5. Over is minus 170. And the under is plus 135. My favorite on this side is the first running back to reach 10-plus rushing yards with James White, plus 120. I think he'll see more action than Rex Burkhead. Receiving. First wide receiver to 60-plus reception yards. Julian Edelman, minus 120. Brandon Cooks, minus 105. First receiver to 50-plus. Robert Woods, plus 100. Brandon Cooks, minus 125. 30-plus. First to 30-plus, I should say. Chris Hogan, minus 125. Philip Dorsett, plus 100. First receiver to plus 20 receiving yards. Chris Hogan, plus 115. Josh Reynolds, minus 145. First tight end to reach 20-plus receiving yards. Gerald Everett or Rob Gronkowski. First tight end to reach 10-plus receiving yards. Tyler Higbee or Gerald Everett. Any wide receiver or tight end to have 100-plus receiving yards. Yes, minus 150. No, plus 115. Who will catch a pass first? Julian Edelman or Brandon Cooks. Edelman's minus 130. Cooks is plus 100. And a play must stand does not count if negated by penalty, which makes sense. And same for this. Who will catch a pass first in the B? Rob Gronkowski, plus 110, or Robert Woods, minus 140. Who will catch a pass first? Chris Hogan, plus 115. Josh Reynolds, minus 110. And Philip Dorsett, plus 100. Gerald Everett, minus 125. Most receiving yards match bet. Bet A, Edelman, minus 120. Cooks, minus 105. B, Woods, plus 110. Cooks, minus 140. C, Chris Hogan, plus 115. Josh Reynolds, minus 150. And Rob Gronkowski, plus 150. Robert Woods, minus 190. Total Rams to record a reception, 6.5. The over is minus 140, and the under is plus 110. Total Patriots to record a reception, 7.5 is the number. Over is plus 115, and under is minus 150. Most receiving yards handicap. Group A, minus 3.5 for Edelman and plus 3.5 for Cooks. Cooks is minus 105 for the plus 3.5, and Edelman's minus 3.5 is minus 125. Robert Woods minus 12.5 is minus 115, and Gronkowski plus 12.5 is minus 115. Handicap C is Gronk against Josh Reynolds. Reynolds is getting 8.5, and that's minus 115, as well as Gronk giving 8.5. And in D is Chris Hogan and Josh Reynolds. Reynolds minus 8.5. Hogan's getting the 8.5, and they're both minus 115. Most receptions match bet. A is Edelman and Cooks. Edelman's minus 170. Cooks is plus 135. B for most receptions match bet is Woods and Cooks. Cooks is plus 105. Woods is minus 135. James White against Robert Woods, both minus 115. And D is Chris Hogan plus 120 and Josh Reynolds minus 160. Most receptions handicap. Edelman minus 1.5 over Brandon Cooks. Edelman is plus 105 and Cooks is minus 135. B, James White minus 2.5 over Josh Reynolds. Reynolds is minus 25 and White's plus 100. Chris Hogan's getting 3.5 from Robert Woods. Hogan's minus 140 and Woods is plus 110. And handicap D for most receptions is Rob Gronkowski giving 1.5 to Gerald Everett. Gronk is plus 105 and Everett's plus 1.5. Player to have most receiving yards. Julian Edelman's the favorite at plus 250. Brandon Cooks is plus 400. Robert Woods is plus 450. Gronk is plus 650. James White's plus 750. Josh Reynolds is 10-1. Chris Hogan's 11-1. Todd Gurley's 12-1. Philip Dorsett's 34-1. Gerald Everett's 70-1. Tyler Higbee 70-1. Cordell Patterson 100-1. Rex Burkhead 100-1. First running back to reach 10+ receiving yards. Rex Burkhead plus 135. Todd Gurley minus 170. First running back to reach 20-plus receiving yards. James White minus 300. Todd Gurley plus 220. Which running back will catch a pass first? It's a B list, an A list, and a C list. The B list is Burkhead and Gurley. Burkhead's plus 155 and Gurley's minus 200. List A for catch a pass first. James White's minus 200 and Gurley is plus 155. And in list C for the running back that will catch a pass first, Sonny Michel's minus 195. CJ Anderson's plus 150. Most running back receiving yards, A, James White, Todd Gurley. White's minus 230 and Gurley's plus 175. The B list is Burkhead and Gurley. Gurley minus 300. Burkhead plus 220. And most running back receiving yards handicap. Handicap list B is Todd Gurley minus 19.5. And that's minus 115 against Rex Burkhead at minus 115, which is getting 19.5. And I mean that by, will Todd Gurley have 19.5 more receiving yards than Burkhead? So it's kind of like an against the spread things in terms of a handicap if I didn't explain it earlier. And the other list for handicapping the most receiving yards by a running back, James White minus 20.5 is minus 115 against Todd Gurley, getting the 20.5 at minus 115. I'll go over more props on tomorrow's podcast, which will include kicking, penalties, touchdowns, among others. And then Friday, I'm going to obviously make my pick for the Super Bowl and pick props on my own. And by the way, in terms of my receiving prop, I'll give away my pick. It's Brandon Cooks to have the most receiving yards at 4-1. I want to talk about Anthony Davis before I go. A couple more destinations I forgot to include yesterday that I've heard people throw out there. The Phoenix Suns I've heard mentioned as a possibility. A front court of Ayton and Davis would be enticing. But wouldn't you think that Ayton would have to be a part of the deal? If not, they can build a package around Mikal Bridges and some future picks. And some former lottery picks to throw in, like a Dragon Bender. And Josh Jackson, per se. And the other team that might be a super dark horse in this is the Brooklyn Nets, who can package Jared Allen, maybe Rodions Carusis, and a couple future picks to send to New Orleans for Davis. And so can you imagine Davis, and let's say they bring back D'Angelo Russell, and you have Davis, Russell, who has to be in the conversation for most improved player right now, and obviously Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert. That would be a nice little foundation there in Brooklyn. And obviously everybody thinks he's going to be a Laker. But if this doesn't get done at the deadline, I think the Celtics blow right away to be the favorites to land him. And you're going to be hearing a lot of Knicks whispers too, because I think the Knicks want to wait until the offseason as well, because I don't think they are willing to include Porzingis. And people throw out Philadelphia. I just don't think they're going to give up on Ben Simmons. They like him a lot. They picked him number 1 overall. Would I trade Simmons for Davis? I would. As long as if Anthony Davis is willing to sign an extension, because Simmons is shown a lot of signs of being a franchise player, but he's just overshadowed by Joel Embiid on that team. My best bet of the day is brought to you by DraftKings. 12-team moneyline parlay, wagered $1 to have a payout of $5.42 with odds of plus 442. It's the Celtics, the Heat, the Nuggets, and in college hoops, Hartford, UMass Lowell, Bucknell, North Florida, Jacksonville, Iowa State, Auburn, Utah Valley, and Fresno State. And that's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping college hoops, NBA, NHL, look ahead to tomorrow's slate in each of those sports. We'll talk more about the NFL Super Bowl props. I'll do NBA power rankings. And obviously tomorrow's best bet and other news that will break around the world of sports. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.